So, very excited today because today I have a new module to have a little play with, and I'm very excited about this module because I think that this module is potentially going to change the way that I make music with Modular. It's that significant. So the module itself is called the 8TR from Half-Time Modular. So they sent me the module, and here it is in this lovely little box here. So I'm going to get it out in a minute, and we'll have a little play with it and see what it does. Hello and welcome to today's video. So as I said in the intro, I think this module has the potential to completely change the way that I make music with modular synth. So it's called 8TR and it is from Half-Time Modular. So they have sent me this all the way from Switzerland, and I've not had it. It arrived over the weekend. Not had a chance to have a little play with it at all yet, so just opening it now. A couple of nice stickers, and yeah, the one there. So what does this module actually do? Well, this module will record. It will record the individual voices or stems of your modular synth. And the way it works, so I'm going to explain it while I take it out the packaging. It's very neatly wrapped up. Throw that on the floor. And here it is. So there is also an expander module that goes with it, which I have as well. And there is the module. Okay, so the 8TR plus the expander module 9J. So what this does is we've got a memory card in here and 8 inputs, and then on this side, on the expander, we've got a trigger input at the top and then 8 outputs. So what we can do with this is we can feed all the sounds, all the voices through into this module, and then it will record at the press of a button. Where's the button? There. The press of a button, it will record everything that is going into it. So with the expander module, what you can do is also pass the sounds out. So it's basically just passing through, and pass those out to your output or mixer or whatever you would normally do with your sounds. And what that means is that you can record anything you do with your modular. So I am personally going to find this extremely useful for a lot of the work that I do, because at the moment everything I do, I just record the stereo output. I just have a left and right, so I have to do all the panning, all the mixing, all the sort of levels has to be done in the modular as I am performing. But what this means is that I can have all the voices separated out, and then I can bring those into the computer, into the DAW, and I can edit them there. And yeah, I can change panning, I can change volume levels, etc., etc. So what else do we have in this box? Well, let's have a look. I'm just going to put that down there. So there's a little bag here. So it is possible, let's see what we've got here. It is possible to mount this in a 1U version. So there's a different panel there if you want to use it as a 1U version. And then we've also got the power cable and some screws and a little jumper cable, because what you can also do is, if you have multiple of these, then you can chain them together, so you have like a master one and then various slaves. So potentially you could have you know, 16, 24, however many inputs you want for as many of these as you can get hold of, which is quite handy. So let's just pop that away there. So as I say, this I think is going to be incredibly useful. I myself, as I've just said, I will you know, come up with a patch, and then I'll do a performance, and I'll just record that performance, just the stereo output, and that's it. So a lot of the videos that you may have seen of me actually performing with the modular, that is just the stereo output coming from the modular itself. I might do a little bit of, maybe a tiny little bit of overall EQ and a little bit of reverb or something in the computer, but essentially what you're hearing is what is coming straight out of the modular. Now that's great a lot of the time, and that has served me pretty well for the last so many years, but recently I have been feeling the limitations of that. You know, there are times when I will listen back to something and there'll be a voice that's too loud or something that's too quiet, and there's nothing you can do to adjust that other than going back and performing it all again. But what will often be the case is that initial performance will have some real you know, some real magic or some real gold moments in there that you want that to be the performance that goes out, but maybe the levels aren't quite right, or the panning isn't quite right, or the mixing isn't quite right. And what this will allow me to do is to actually I could still do that stereo recording. I could use that as like a demo, or you know, like a scratch track, a guide track or something, but I will have all the individual stems of each part that I am performing with the modular, so I can actually go in later and adjust the levels. But this isn't just, this is great not just for in the studio, but this is great for when I'm out performing live at, you know, gigs and so on. How many times have you done a live performance somewhere and there was something about it that was really good, and you just wish that you had some way of recording it? You know, I've done that so many times, and then come home, tried to recreate it and actually make a recording, and it's just not worked. You know, the magic is gone. But with this device, I'm going to be able to actually, wherever I take my modular, I'm going to be able to record. I'm going to be able to record whatever sounds it's producing. So this, I think, is going to be completely groundbreaking and really, really helpful, really useful. Now, of course, you know, there are other ways that you could achieve this. You know, if you've got a mixer or something, and you can just plug, I mean, I've got a mixer over here which is out of sight, or out of shot of, you know, the camera. I could just plug all my, you know, my outputs from my modular into this mixer, and then that, you know, is going to go into the sound card on the computer. But I've only got 4 inputs on my sound card because it's quite a basic one, and it's one that I bought many years ago. I'd love to have an interface or a sound card that's got more inputs, but I don't have that. And at any rate, it's not particularly portable for me to be able to record if I'm out and about. There are probably other ways you can buy interfaces. You know, a lot of the expert sleepers stuff, which is brilliant stuff. Again, modules that will fit into the modular, but are actually an audio interface, so you can plug your modular directly into the computer and have it work that way, and, you know, record onto the computer. But again, you've got to take a computer with you if you want to record outside of your studio. What this allows you to do is to actually have that facility for recording no matter where you are. And that is something else which, you know, I think is going to be extremely useful. But there's so many reasons why this is going to be helpful beyond just, you know, I can record stems. So it comes with an SD card that's already formatted ready, and that SD card, I can't remember what the capacity is, but it will allow for hours and hours of recording before it fills up. So, you know, you can really use this to sort of archive everything that you do with your modular. You know, in the past I've talked about sort of making notes, and I've got this journal over here where I record everything that I do, and I write down my patch notes, and I you know, write down all the connections and everything that I'm doing with the modular. What I can do now as well is I can be also recording very easily without having to switch the computer on. Even I can be recording everything that I do. So when I'm rehearsing, when I'm trying to put patches together, I'm trying to figure stuff out, I can just record everything. I can go back later and listen to that and, you know, see what's in there, learn from it, learn from the mistakes that I've made. Essentially, this can act like a sort of little black box recorder that is just on all the time, recording everything that I do. It also can take some of the sort of pressure, the sort of compositional pressure, if we can call it that, away from a performance, because if this is on recording all the time, and then I'm going to come back in later and edit and, you know, change levels and EQ and panning and whatever, I don't need to worry about those things so precisely while I'm actually performing with the modular, because I know that this is going to capture everything, and then I can do that part later on. So essentially, I'm just creating sounds. As I say, I can pass through the expander. I can still have my stereo output. I can still record the intentions, you know, the sort of fade-ins, fade-outs, volume changes, etc., and the panning and so on. I can still record all of that for reference later, and then listen to it and make changes using the actual, you know, the stems that have been recorded. So I think this will be a really useful tool, not only for sort of analysing what I'm doing, but also to sort of offload some of the creative pressure from the actual performance part and do that on the computer. There's also this trigger control, which is quite interesting. So you can put a trigger into here, and when that receives a trigger, it will initiate the recording. So again, that's something which could be really interesting as a creative tool, to send triggers into there and just be recording like little snapshots of what's going on. Maybe to create sort of loops or samples or one-shot things through the settings file. So on the SD card there's a settings file which you can edit, so you can set the maximum file size, I think, and various other things, but you could set that really tiny, so you know you could sort of almost be creating little granular cells which you could then import into something like you know, Morphogene or whatever other sort of sample type modules you have, which would be interesting as well. The other thing that's kind of interesting is, you know, you've got 8 inputs here, but they're not configured in any kind of stereo pairs or anything like that, so you can decide that at a later date. So all the sort of spatial decisions about the music, where things are going to pan and what's going to be the left and right of a particular stereo pair, you can decide that later, and you can change that if you want to. Incidentally, there is some software that is currently in sort of a beta phase, I guess, which will allow you to sort of bulk edit what's on the memory card, as well as link channels together if you want to set things as different stereo pairs, and a few other things. And I'll show you that on the computer later. So one thing which is worth mentioning is about the memory card. So the memory card stores the sound as multi-channel WAV files. So this is basically a single WAV file, but within that WAV file are various channels. Now, not all DAWs are able to import these multi-channel WAV files. So at the moment, I think, so I use Reaper pretty much for everything, and Reaper will happily import multi-channel WAV files. I think, you know, the usual suspects, Logic and Pro Tools and Cubase, will also happily import multi-channel WAV files. However, I don't think Ableton will. As far as I know, Ableton doesn't import multi-channel WAV files, and FL Studio, I don't think that will either. So if you are using one of those doors, what you would need to do is either use there's various sort of free softwares that are available. Audacity is one. There are others too, where you can import the WAV file and then export it as individual mono or stereo files. But also the software that is available that sort of goes with this, which is browser based, will do that for you as well. So you can just drop the file in, it will split it, and as I say, you can sort of bulk edit, you can rename, you can set things as stereo pairs and so on. So that software is probably going to be very, very useful. So I think that is kind of enough of me talking for the moment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of reconfigure my rack a little bit so I can get this in, and then we'll have a little play with it, and I'll show you sort of how it works, and then I will bring the file into the computer and we'll have a look at what we can do with it on the computer. Okay, so see you in a second once I've taken this thing apart and put it back together again. Right, so here we are. Now I just want to point out, I don't know if you can see here, I finally managed to get this thing rigged up. Look at that. Isn't that a thing of beauty? All my cables neatly stacked on this thing here. Anyway, that's not what we're here for. We're here for this. So before we start looking at what this is, I should just initially explain what I used to do, or what I've done previously, which is to use this Happy Nerding Pan Mix module. So this module basically is a small 6-channel mixer, 4 mono channels and 2 stereo channels. So I would basically take all the outputs from whatever is going on here and into the mixer, and then from the stereo output of the mixer I would actually go through this little 2 HP reverb unit, and then from there into this Buffaco output module, and then that is either going to my desk or to a PA or whatever. So the reverb just served as like a master reverb for everything, just a tiny little bit of reverb, and then a master volume control here. But I would essentially sort of mix the levels using the pan mix, so fading in and out voices, adjusting pan as as the performance goes, and that is basically how this thing has been set up for a very long time. What I've now done though is I've got the 8TR, which I assume stands for 8-track, which is here, ready to go, and then I've got all the outputs from it here. So I thought, I'll match number to number, but then that's not going to work, because you've got 1, 2, and then 3 is a stereo channel, and then 4's over here, 4, 5, 6 is a stereo channel, so it's not work. So what I've done is I've done 1 and 2 are going to 1 and 4 here, which I often will use as like a left and a right. 3 and 4 are going to 2 and 5 here, which I also often use as left and right. And then 5 and 6 are going to this stereo channel, and 7 and 8 are going to this stereo channel. It looks like I've color coordinated this in some way, but I haven't. It's just whatever cables I'd grabbed. I might not stick with that. I might change it. I'm sure I probably will at some point. I don't know, I might even put some, masking tape on and label them differently. Who knows? So it's a case of just patching stuff in and seeing what happens. So I'm just going to patch something together very, very quickly. Not really thinking too much about what it's going to sound like. We'll just whack some stuff in. So I might even fast forward this bit, put it on double speed or something while I'm just quickly patching something together. Right, no idea what's going on. So that's this one. There's your cable. Maybe. Okay. Missed. Okay, so I've patched something together very quickly. What I've got is a couple of rings doing what rings does. One's going into a delay. A sample coming from the 404 into clouds, and something which is was already in Morphogene, don't know what it was, but it's making some weird noises now, and that's going in here. So very quickly just patch that together. And what I would then do, if I normally performing or recording, I would basically hit record on the computer. I would fade up whatever voices, maybe starting with this one, this noise, bringing in some rings, etc., and do a performance. Now, simply, we can just hit record on the top of the module here, and that is now recording everything. Obviously, it's not going to record any of these movements because that's all happening after this module. So at the moment, all of the voices are just going into there, and I'm going to end up with 8 tracks of these sounds. But I can still do my performance, and I can still record that as a stereo output. So let's just very quickly do something. Okay, very basic little noodly thing. So I'm going to hit stop, or hit record again rather, and we'll see what that has produced. Okay, so I'm going to hop over to the computer now, and we'll have a look at what's on the memory card. Okay, so here we are in Reaper, my DAW of choice. Other DAWs are available, of course. And as I said earlier, you need to check that the DAW that you use can handle these multi-channel WAV files. I know Ableton can't, and I don't think FL Studio can either. But that's no problem if you do use those, because I'll show you a way around that in a minute. Yeah, Reaper it's no problem. And I think Logic and Cubase and probably Pro Tools as well, all no problem. So very simple. All we need to do is get the files from the memory card. So we have this folder here, which is where everything has been recorded for this particular session. And we can just bring those in. So this one was just a bit of a mistake, I think. But this is what I've just recorded there. So if I just drop those in, and you should be able to hear those now, playing away nicely, twinkling away. So what we've got then is this is our multi-channel WAV file. So you can see we've got all of the parts recorded here in a single WAV file, but on multi-channels. So to break those out into separate channels, all we need to do is go to Item Processing, Explode Multi-Channel Audio, and Reaper will think for a minute. And let's just bring that back down again. And here we go. So we've got, noisy as it is, we've got a whole bunch of tracks that have just been recorded. So could solo any one of those. Adjust the levels. Some of it's pretty loud. Let's bring that one down. Pan as necessary. Whatever you want to do. Okay, and there we go. So, however, if you are not somebody who uses Reaper and you are using a different DAW, there is another way that you can do this, and that is to use the web tool. Now this is still in development, I think, at the moment, and this is kind of like a beta version, but eventually this will be available. So very simple to use, I think. We just get our multi-channel, we just get our multi-channel file, didn't want to do that, and drop it in, and it's thinking about it. Hit preview, and there are all of the files. So I think we can rename them here, whatever you want. Obviously these are not very sensible names, but you get the idea. We can link together stereo pairs, or leave them as mono, and then hit the process and download, and we get a zip file in a moment. So that has downloaded. I'll just extract that. And there are our files. So you can see we've got the the nonsense names that I put in, stereo files, and then these mono files that I didn't rename. So then it's just simply a case of just dragging those into your DAW. Sorry, same time position on separate tracks. And there we go. So you can see we've got the stereo files at the bottom, and then these mono files on top, alphabetically arranged. Very simple. Okay, so that is how you can get the software into the computer, and once you're there, once you've got that in, then it's very easy. All you need to do is start editing, mixing, whatever you want to do, and you've got your multi-channel tracks in there. So as I say, I think this is going to be I think this is going to be a really useful module for me. I know I'm quite excited about the possibility of being able to edit and do things with the sounds that I'm recording from the modular in the computer. I know some people probably think, well, isn't the point of modular to get away from the computer? And in part it is. And I do think, modular is still, for me anyway, the best tool for coming up with ideas and composing and actually making music. But there are times when getting some of those sounds into the computer really does help you to sort of take it to the next level, perhaps with the compositional work. And this module is going to allow you to do that. And then there's also, as I was talking about earlier, just the possibility that you can just leave it recording the whole time, and sort of almost have it act like a little black box where it's recording everything that you do, so you can sort of go back and mine it for little gems, little audio gems later on. So yeah, all in all, I think this is an extremely useful module. 8TR, which I assume stands for 8-track, from Half-Time Modular. Go and check them out. Go and check out their website, links below, and all of that jazz. But there you go, that is the module. Okay, well, thank you for watching. I hope you found that interesting, useful. And as I say, I think that module is going to be extremely useful and extremely, interesting. And potentially it's going to change the way that I make music with modular. So go check out Half-Time Modular. I popped some links in the description where you can purchase from, and also their website. But yeah, go check them out and let me know what you think in the comments. I'll see you next time. Cheerio.